So anyway, welcome again, guys, to our webinar. Most of you just heard us, just chatting about it. A lot of us all know each other across the state. This is we look forward to doing this every Friday because we feel like it's a good way to pull us all together and help give you updated information that we have, and also some guidance and information to help your lives a little better during this COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm Mark Cantor. I'm president of MSYSA, and I just want to go over a couple guidelines like we do every week. Please listen in the mute mode. That way we don't hear the kids crying, the dogs barking, or your spouse is yelling at you. And the second thing is, if you have any questions and you don't want to come on live and ask the question in person, please use the chat feature and just type in your question, and I'll do my best to ask the appropriate board member or affiliate or guest speaker your question and try to get an answer for you. And the last thing is, always be respectful and please announce yourself so we know what affiliation you're representing. So with that, last week's webinar was really successful. We got tons of positive feedback from the listening to Lieutenant Governor of Maryland. That we really enjoyed that. We got some good insight. We did send him an invite just in case he wants to listen in, including the past guest speakers, in case they ever want to pipe in or come on and give us any kind of report. But couple quick notices. MSYSA, the state of Maryland, was spotlighted in a national article this week from Soccer Today, basically giving us accolades for being on top of our game as far as communication with our state affiliates, having these webinars, providing guest speakers, keeping our members updated, and also getting a better handle on getting to know you guys on a personal level, knowing some of the trials and tribulations you're going through, because we certainly understand it. And that's why we're doing this every Friday, to try to help out, be a conduit to whatever positive program we could come back with to help you guys succeed and get ready for back to play. And speaking of back to play, things, as you know, are starting to loosen up. The governor has started to loosen up on some of the protocols throughout the state of Maryland. But of course, your county executive is really the one in charge of whether your jurisdiction can open up or not. So, for example, there's some that, like we spoke about last week, that are going to be late to the game. Montgomery County is going to be one of them. Prince George's County is another one. And unfortunately, we can only sit and wait for their approval to start letting us get back to the fields based on the new protocols that are going to be in place. So we're going to keep you posted on that. And I also want to let you know that we came up with last week we talked about it briefly, but the state association came up, and it's on our website, with constant information based on your county, by just all the resources per county in the state of Maryland. All you have to do is click on it, and all the latest and greatest resources will be specific to that county. It's a great tool, because if you're in Montgomery, if you're in Frederick County, you're not going to be too interested in what we're doing in Montgomery County. So it's really easy to click on your county, get all the information you need on an updated basis, and it has numerous resources, and that can be found right on our website, the MSYSA website. And Nathean, if you want to post on the chat line, just for some people that may not know our website address, you can post it up just so they have it again. By the way, our website is filled to the brim with information. I mean, there's so much information that you just can't click on it you really have to spend some time because it's loaded with updated information about recruiting policy. It's updated about COVID. It's updated about specific counties. There's a ton and ton of information. The back to play protocols on there. There's so much information to help you guys move forward as soon as we can. And moving forward, as you all know, is going to be a very slow process. You know, there's a lot of information that is still coming. We're not so sure about the exact county protocols and how they're going to look as far as getting back to play, because I think everything's going to be different. But that's why it's important to go on our website and look at those county specific guidelines as they change, so you're updated. Next week's guest is going to be, just so you know, an insurance representative from Diversified Insurance, who basically is the state insurance carrier. And they're going to discuss all the information about the insurance, what kind of insurance you need, what kind of insurance the state has, and how they go hand in hand. It's going to be a great question and answer session. I would definitely come on next week if you have any insurance questions, because this is where you're going to get your answers. It's going to be easy. It's going to be straightforward, and you should be clear by next week about really the ramifications about anything that have to do with back to play and insurance issues. So next slide, please. Okay, now I would like to announce Steve Nichols, which is our Loyola men's soccer head coach. I've known Steve for a long time. His program has been great. A couple of weeks ago, if you remember, we had Ray Leone from University of Maryland women's program. And now Steve Nichols is going to give us the updates and the approach that he's taking on the men's side. And he'll be talking about the different, how the COVID-19 has affected his program, college soccer, recruiting, the future, what kind of things they're doing to keep the guys in shape, those type of things. So Steve, appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us and giving us an update on Loyola men's soccer program during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. And I have fond memories of MSYSA in my days early coaching. I mean, the reason I'm the coach at Loyola right now is I was lucky enough to win almost a dozen national championships coaching in MSYSA as a youth coach. And I remember my first team I ever coached in my first year. I had Gucciana Yewu and Kyle Beckerman, who both played in a couple World Cups, and I was kind of blessed. As you know, coaches get a lot of credit, but it's your players that make you who you are. And I have the fondest memories of my life coaching in MSYSA, and I kind of miss those days a little bit. So, no, thank you. I'll use my AD's line. This is unprecedented times. So with college soccer, there's a lot of unknown. I think for us right now, as you see, everybody's different. The country's just like, in youth soccer, every state's different. Every county's different. You don't know what each school's going to do, what each area is going to do. And so that's a massive unknown. We can't have a season unless our kids come back to school. And we're praying that happens. I know our president, our vice president, I talk to them weekly. We have administrative meetings and Zoom calls. They're planning on coming back at Loyola. Who knows what it could look like? It could look like, a little bit like lacrosse maybe. In men's soccer, we have over 200 teams, where lacrosse has about 60 or 70 college Division I teams. Maybe we're at 100, 150, and it makes it a program like Loyola, which is a mid-major, maybe a little bit easier to win a national championship or compete at the national level than it would be with over 200 teams if some teams don't come back. So we're going forward as planned. It's a little bit more difficult, as Mark said, with the recruiting piece and talking to your guys every day and the incoming recruits. It's different, and you learn something new every day. So for us, what we do is we have a weekly Zoom call every Monday morning where we update our players of what's going on, what the plans are, what the future looks like for what we know as of now. It's me and my staff, our trainer, our strength coach, Right now, we would be passing our players on to our strength and fitness coach. We're lucky we contract out our strength and fitness coach so he can work with our players 365 days a year where we're hands off. We would have been hands off right now anyway. So our guys would be following a protocol with him. And then what we do, which we will not, it'll be the first time we haven't done this in my 6 years, going to be 7th year at Loyola. You can't require your guys to do this, but it's, we almost make it kind of mandatory. All of our guys come into summer 2. So summer 2 starts at about July 10th, and guys take a class or two, either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. But every day they're up in the morning, they're working out with their strength and fitness coach at the facility. They're playing pickup on their own in training. So when preseason starts in about the second week of August, we're already where we need to be. And preseason is almost just like a dress rehearsal. It's not like your typical preseason of 2-a-days. It's more just a dress rehearsal, getting ready for the season. We will not be able to do that this year. They will not let us come on campus for summer 2. So we have some challenges ahead as we try to prepare for this fall season. And that's probably the first big obstacle we have as far as trying to overcome and getting ready for this fall, if we do have a fall season. But like I said, our guys regularly check in. They check in with our strength coach every day. They check in with us typically once or twice a week. A lot of our guys are in summer 1 online. Most of our guys will be on summer 2 online. So we try to keep them involved and keep them acclimated to everything that's going on. And so that's what we do with our current players. The hard part for us right now is we have 7 incoming freshmen, or not freshmen. We have 7 incoming players. We have 2 transfers. And we're waiting on 2 guys. The NCAA has so many things on their hands right now, obviously. We're waiting on one young man is waiting on 2 waivers from the NCAA, and the other young man is waiting on a transfer read from the NCAA. It's not a priority for them right now. So we're at the mercy of the NCAA to see if we're going to be sitting with 7 incoming or 9 incoming guys. And that's been a little bit of a pain to deal with right now. So we're praying that we can get these last 2 guys in. But that's where we're at right now with that, and going forward. As far as the recruiting piece, it's a lot more difficult. We would probably be in the grand swing of things right now. We would be all over the place, whether it's Memorial Day tournaments, whether it's going out to San Diego in the 3rd week of June for the Academy playoffs, watching regionals in West Virginia like last year, or nationals or Texas, wherever they would have been this year, or Oklahoma City, I'm not sure. But obviously that's all off the books. So it's a lot of video, a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of coordination with club coaches, and trying to take people's word for how good some of these kids really are. It's hard. It's really hard, to be honest with you. And with the dead period going to the end of June 30th, and it looks like it's going to be extended to July 30th, it's very difficult. I'll give you an example. We had a late kid come in from Atlanta United, and the kid's a really good player that was going to go to school in California. And with all this COVID stuff out in California, he's like, I don't think that's the best move right now. He decommitted, and he loves Loyola, but the parents are pretty smart. They're like, we're not going to commit until we come see the campus. Being a dead period, I can't meet the kid personally. I can't meet the family personally. They can't come in their facility. They can't come on their campus. And it's made it difficult, and this poor young man's got his hands tied as he's trying to figure out where he's going to be in the fall. And it's out of everybody's control. There's nothing we really can do. So there's a lot of challenges like that. And as you know, soccer, I guess on the higher end, if you're a big time player, it's kind of on a 2-year cycle. So, if you're a big time junior, you're usually committing by, usually spring of your junior year. So this whole situation obviously, makes it difficult on everybody right now. And so it's going to be a little bit of a different recruiting model probably for the next year or 2, maybe even 3 years, just because of this whole situation going forward. So it'll be very interesting to see where everybody ends up. I think the NCAA and soccer is being very careful that nobody really has an advantage over anybody else. So we'll see. As you saw in June 1 football, men's and women's basketball are allowed to start doing voluntary workouts. I think they're voting on the other sports today. So hopefully soccer will be involved, since we're a fall sport. We'll be able to start doing that as well, but we'll have to wait and see. That's kind of where we are right now, as far as that goes. like I said, it's difficult. This is hard for us. Like in Memorial Day tournament, I'll give you an example. We just had a kid drafted, Josh Fawale, who was a kid who went to Long Reach High School in Columbia, played for MSI. And then his last year, he went to Celtic. He dabbled with DC United a little bit. He was a late bloomer. We saw him at the Potomac Memorial Day tournament. And then I went and watched him at regionals down in West Virginia. And he wasn't great then. He had a lot of potential, but it's a kid we would have never even had a chance to see right now. And he would never be in our program. And the kid just blew up year after year after year, came in just on financial aid. By the end of his junior year, or end of his sophomore year going to his junior, he was on a full scholarship. He got drafted by DC United in the second round. And, stories like that, I don't know if they're going to happen right now this year because of the situation, which is sad. So, it hurts. It hurts big time. And I hope we're a little lucky. We had done a lot of our recruiting early, but this class we just graduated. When I got to Loyola, we were awful. I mean, my first year we had what we had. My second year, we were trying to kind of clear house and prepare for the future. We were 0-8-1 in the Patriot League, and we scored 1 goal. So that first recruiting class was my third year. They're the number 9 recruiting class in the country. I was fortunate. I had two assistants, 2 rock star assistants. One of them just got the head job at Drexel, Mike Marciano. And we completely outkicked our punt coverage. That class won 3 straight Patriot League regular season championships, almost won their freshman year. They missed out by a point, but we graduated 7 guys in that class. 5 guys just graduated in December early to all pursue professional soccer, and all 5 are in some professional camp, whether it's USL, MLS, or overseas in Sweden. So we had a little bit of a head start, and we were prepared because we knew this class was going to be a killer when they left. But obviously this isn't helping us right now, fulfill our needs for the fall of 2020.
Let me ask you a question, Steve.
Yep.
I know that not specifically in your conference, but other conferences, some of the schools have already announced that they're going to be back to school in the fall, like Notre Dame, Purdue, sure, and a few others. So how would it work if in your conference, if some of the schools go back and your school doesn't? How does that work as far as fairness, competition, schedule?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I knock on wood, I'm hoping not, but there's been rumors in our league going around about BU being online. Boston University's that area of Boston was hit pretty hard, right? So I've talked to the coach regularly, and he said that there's nothing set in stone. But if they do go online, they won't have a team this fall, or they won't be playing this fall. So we'll go from 10 teams to 9 teams. The good thing for our conference, we have Navy and Army in our league, and Navy and Army right now are going to go forward as scheduled. So I think they're bringing kids on the campus in June, both schools, and they're going to try to go full force. So I think with that, we're good. Also for us, even though some of our schools are in tough states like Pennsylvania and New York, like a Colgate's up in the mountains in New York, upstate New York, Lehigh, Bucknell, Lafayette, or in, I don't want to say the middle of nowhere, but they're out in the boonies, right, in Pennsylvania. So we're a little fortunate there. Americans in the middle of DC, so I don't know what their situation is going to be. But like I said, I think what's going to happen, I think I'm hoping, like, I love to play Maryland UMBC every year, and we don't play. So maybe if we lose West Virginia, or we lose a game like that, or SMU, maybe we can schedule, and Maryland loses a couple games at UMBC, that we can schedule them locally and make those games up with teams in our region or our area. That's our hope. But I think most Patriot League schools are planning to go forward as planned. But like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of schools that don't, that might not have a season this fall. And it's going to be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah. As far as recruiting goes, MSYSA thinks we might be able to help you out. We have 3 people on the line now that are looking to find a place in college. Julio
Sure.
Zarata, Eric McAleer, and Bill Cole. So you can reach out to those guys and see.
I'm ready.
Julio's ready.
We're ready.
I tell you what. I tell you what, I think you'd all agree. I mean, the way soccer is now in our country compared to what it used to be when we were growing up, right? All these guys, you have USL1 and USL2, and everybody's a pro these days. I think we could still be playing if we were fit because we have so many pros in our country because there's so many different leagues. We just got to get fit, and we probably all could still be playing somewhere.
It's like that movie, Back to School.
Exactly. But any other questions? I mean, ask away.
Anybody have any questions for Steve? They want to ask any questions about the college recruiting policy, the schedule, any fitness information?
Mark, I have a question. This is Ellis Pierre with Maryland Rush Montgomery.
Hi, Ellis.
Hey, Steve, I'm just curious. We have a lot of boys, especially the juniors, that's pretty nervous about what's going on right now with respect to their recruiting window. Would you recommend that they attend like the Jefferson Cup in July and some of these, EDP Cups and so on? Is that a realistic place to get recruited, or do you think college coaches will be staying away from there as well?
Good question, Ellis.
It's a great question, Ellis. It's going to be interesting, Ellis. I mean, we're lucky right now, but I'm sure you're hearing rumors. And it's not just the mid-majors, it's also the big Division I Power 5 conferences. Right now, no Patriot League schools I've heard have got furloughed, but there's a lot of coaches that are getting furloughed, number one. Number two is if they extend this dead period through July, then nobody can go anyway, right? So there's nobody that's going to be there. I have a son who's a junior, and he's going through the same thing, and it might help me out. Maybe I'll end up getting them if we stay locked down for a little bit longer, but who knows? But I think they're gonna have to sit and wait. I think it's gonna be hard. I think it's gonna be really hard because, like, I'll give you another example. Even if some of these coaches aren't furloughed, I know with me right now, I'm not allowed to travel. I'm not allowed to use my P card where I would to rent a car or to get an airplane ticket or a hotel room on a recruiting trip. So a lot of universities aren't allowing that anyway. So I think, Ellis, it's going to be tough for July. That's my gut. That's just my gut. And I think they're going to extend the dead period to the end of July. That's what I'm hearing. Now, I'm hoping it doesn't happen because I was planning to go to Florida down to Montverde Academy and go to this big-time ID camp. But it's going to be hard. I think it really is. I think it's going to be really slow moving.
Didn't the NCAA just come out with a ruling allowing some sports to start training again June 1? I think football was one of them.
Football and men's and women's basketball. Men's and women's basketball as well. Yeah, I think we're going to be next because we're a fall sport. I think we'll probably, in the next vote, I think it's today or Monday, I think they're going to let us do it too. We probably won't start to mid-June, but I think they're going to let soccer as well.
Here's a question.
Hey, Steve. Yeah. Steve, yes. Brad Roos, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, how you doing?
What's going on, buddy?
I'm dying in this thing. You know me, I gotta always be on the move, so I'm struggling with this whole thing.
so I think that weren't those the football and the basketball workouts, weren't those individual workouts? I don't think they're really team, right?
They're voluntary. So they're voluntary.
Okay.
So I think what's going to happen though is if your university is letting kids on campus, like you give you an example, like with basketball, if your university opens or football. I think, so I'll give you an example. This is what I heard from Army. Here's what Army's doing for football. They're going in June 1, and they're going to have pods of 24 players with a specific coach. And they're going to live together with the 24. They're going to eat together with the 24 and train together with the 24. They're going to have like 4 groups of 24 players, and they will stay separated from the other groups, and they will train like that. So I think like schools like that in football, they're starting to practice and get ready starting June 1. I think Navy's a little bit different. I heard Navy's going like maybe June 15th with football, and it's a little bit different than what Army's doing. But that's the plan. Basketball, as you know, because you're a big time NCAA basketball referee. I know our head basketball coach is waiting, because their summers are massive for them, right? They actually, unlike soccer, they can practice with their players over the summer for 8 weeks.
Right.
So I think with them getting the go-ahead, the question is going to be is what these universities do now after June 1, and that's going to be the big question for a lot of schools.
Right. Well, I just want to remind you, the next big local recruiting chance for you is in Bethesda. So I'll see you in November.
You let me know, I'll be there. I'll be there. I got to go down there to see Rich anyway, so I got to come down that way.
You know, that's going to be a big disadvantage, for example, in college football. If for example, if one team, let's say Penn State and Ohio State are bringing their squads back to participate, like you said, 24 units, and Maryland doesn't, then there's a huge disadvantage because you got one team that's basically going to have a week, 2, or a month ahead of everyone else. It's just a crazy sports environment that we're living in now because there's no real set standard.
Yeah, it's I mean, the NCAA president made that statement, or made that, when he said, listen, I'm not going to tell people what to do. They're kind of on their own. So if there's no blanket date, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard.
All right. Any other questions for Steve Nichols?
I'm going to say thank you, Coach Nichols, for the great memories and great games.
No, I know. It was fun, wasn't it? Good time.
Yeah, it was great.
He's just trying to suck up to you, Steve, so you can recruit him.
Hey, just one thing before I leave is I want you guys to know, in our league, in the Patriot League, just so, proud of Maryland. The last 3 Patriot League Rookie of the Year players were all from Maryland. So 3 years ago, Chase Vosvik, who's from Baltimore and played in the Bays, and then he went to Montverde Academy for 2 years, but went to Gilman High School. He was a Patriot League Rookie of the Year and a Goalie of the Year. 2 years ago, Jacob Williams out of Old Mill High School, and he played with a bunch of teams in Maryland, Celtic, Bays, at Naval Academy. He was the Rookie of the Year. And this year, Daniel Suji from Perry Hall and Baltimore Armor, who was really a high school senior. He accelerated and got out of school a year early. He was a Patriot League Rookie of the Year. So the Patriot League is well represented by the state of Maryland. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, so keep it up. You're really helping our league out a lot. I appreciate it.
Steve, we appreciate the time. Of course, you can stick on the rest of the next half an hour if you want. We're just going over different protocols and different reports. We really appreciate it. We'd love to have you on again later on.
Anytime, Mark. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Next slide, please. Next update will be our registration specialist, Jessica Hafer. Jessica.
Hello, everybody. And thanks again, Coach Nichols, for the talk. It was very enlightening.
Thank you.
So everybody, we've moved into phase 2 of our club registrations. And thanks to Nathean and Brendan, they've updated our website at MSYSA.org. Under the registration tab, you will find the 3 different links, one of which, again, is the overview for phases, all 3 phases, which are all clickable links, and the different types of matters we're going to be handling within those phases. So phase 2, we're going to be creating teams, showing how to put players on those teams, and verifications of players. So it's imperative that everyone go to the link, which is the first one under the registration tab, to sign up for the phase 2 webinar. The links are already up there, so you have 6 different choices, but please sign up so that we know how many will be attending each webinar. And we do encourage that anyone that's signing up, whether it be the club leader or the person that's designated for registration, anyone that will be dealing with that within your club, to be in those webinars. And then again, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to contact me. My cell number is, which most of you probably already have, 410-330-8692. Please don't hesitate to contact me. And then my email as well is registration@MSYSA.org.
All right, Jessica, thanks. I just want to do a shout out to Jessica. I mean, for most of you that are on this call, you've been involved with MSYSA for a long time, and we can clearly, with confidence, say that our registration platform and advice and specialty is at the top of our game now, because now we have a registration person that is basically working with all the clubs all the time. You're not left in the dark if there's an issue. Jessica works all the time. You email her, she'll get back to you. She'll answer your questions. She'll help you get through this new registration update. And we really appreciate all your hard work. Okay,
Yes.
next.
Hey, Mark, I have a question for Jess. Jess, before you get off, can you just speak to the affiliation form that we're going to be having the clubs fill out to update their information so that we have the most updated information for our affiliates?
Absolutely. So actually, I'll be sending that information as an email to our entire affiliation. And what we're doing is making sure everyone has their most up-to-date information in GOT Sport. I've been also touching that with within our phases in our webinars. That's critical to log into your GOT Sport account if you haven't done so already, to update who your users are and who your administrators are. But what we also are doing is creating an actual affiliation program, which will be completed by every club. That will be ready during the phase 3 training. The link will be ready, and at that point, you would just simply give an overview of your club with guided questions that I would have already set up within the form. And you would just give us, you know, how many teams you will have, who your leadership is within your club, because we all know that those points of contact do change over the years. And then you would just submit it, and this would then also help us to better serve you by having your latest up-to-date information. So was there any other questions regarding that?
No, that was it.
No, but it's just to add on to that. It's really, you know, we just had we have, before this webinar, we always have a Friday morning staff webinar. And one of the topics today was making sure that we have all the proper contacts across the state, because we're afraid that some of our affiliates and some of our members are not getting our emails. And we send out a lot of emails. So they're either going into your spam filter, or they're not reaching certain affiliates. And we want to make sure that at least, and it's very hard because we have thousands and thousands of email recipients. I think over 50,000, believe it or not. So we want to make sure that all the information, especially during these times, are getting to you guys in a timely manner, and most importantly, getting to you guys. So if you are not receiving the information, or you know somebody in your club or a friend in another club or leadership down the road, please contact us and send us an email so that we can make sure that you're on the proper constant contact list. In fact, we're going to post right now on our chat line the email that we'd like you to send your updated information to. And so next, we'll want to have a report from Brad Roos, our State Cup Director.
Hey, real quick, hopefully everybody is safe and healthy, and best wishes to everybody. I know that there is a lot of conflicting information that you hear from all parts of the country regarding return to play and what states are able to do and what they're not able to do. The State Cup, the Cup Committee, and it's not just State Cup, it's State Cup and President's Cup, has been meeting weekly to kind of go through what some of the scenarios are and what some of the options are. So we want to let everybody know there really are two factions right now. Number one is there are groups of teams that still really would love to have some type of a competition or a chance for the players to get out on the field this summer. Then there's another group of teams that really they've started to kind of move on until next year as far as rosters and things like that. As we've said from the past several meetings, we're going to make a final decision on June the 1st as far as being able to go forth or not. For the majority, I right now we're thinking that if we could, we would try to start the State Cup no later and the President's Cup no later than around the weekend of July 9th, 10th, and 11th, if we're able to. And we would have a 3 to 4 week competition at at one site, one location for both, so we can manage it. So we will send an update out to you by June 1st in the afternoon as far as what the status is and how we're going to move from then on, and what the status and options are as far as payments are concerned. As we said before, if you have any questions, please call me or send me an email and I'll get back to you immediately. Thanks.
Thank you. So that picture that you see up there, you're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the antithesis of social distancing.
Okay.
But the player there played for the Fury and is now the head coach of the University of Vermont women's.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
And so did she just score a goal? Put that picture back, please. Did she just score a goal or did she miss a goal?
No, he was yelling at her.
I think it was one of those few times when I was trying to really pump her up and have her do some great things. But she was a phenomenal player and a great kid. And like I said, again, she's been the head coach at Vermont probably for 4 or 5, 6 years.
That's great. So it's sad to think that you can't do that anymore. You'd have to do that 6 feet away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Next is our Executive Director, Flo Egan, with an updated report.
Hi, guys. Just real quick, I wanted to let you know an update from last week when Lieutenant Governor was on with us. He said that Terry Hasseltine was putting together a committee throughout the state of all the different sports and committee and the subcommittees to look at how youth sports and amateur sports can return to the state and how we can do it together. So they reached out and I've agreed to serve on one of those subcommittees. And I know Bill Cole is on as well and others from the soccer landscape. And we're all the subcommittees are working together as working groups. And then we as a cohort will be able to present to the governor how the return to play for youth and amateur sports will work across the state, not only for soccer, but for all sports. So I think in Maryland, we are fortunate that the governor and the government know they didn't have all the answers, but they reached out to the people that are in the trenches, in the different sports to, get their assistance to put together a comprehensive plan for the state of Maryland. So I think we're fortunate in that respect, and I'm happy to serve on that committee. So we'll give you updates as we go along.
All right. Thanks, Flo.
You're welcome.
Next is Gandalf French.
Sorry. Forgot to change Nathean's name. Scott.
So Gandalf French.
He goes by 2 names. Yeah. Sorry, Gandalf.
Gandalf French is our program director and for ODP and summer camps. He wants to do a general report and update of where we are in those programs. So Gandalf.
Thank you, Mark. So unfortunately, obviously, alongside of all the other club programs, ODP and our spring season, was canceled. We did our best to postpone the cancellation for as long as we could, but obviously, without a return to play date, eventually we had to do so. We did provide refunds to quite a few of the players, in the program. Some of the ones that were on the payment plans did not receive them, but the overwhelming majority of the players did end up receiving significant refund amounts, which, as a nonprofit, we were really happy to be able to give that money back to the families when they need it the most. Moving forward with the program, our next stage is going to be the tryout phase, which we're hopeful will happen, on schedule for this fall. So right now, what we're looking to do is assess the staff from the previous year, bring in any new staff members that we can. So to that end, any of the affiliate, affiliates that have staff on their staff that would like to participate with the ODP staff or be interested in being considered for the ODP staff, would strongly encourage that you have them send me their resume, because we are always looking to improve our staff with qualified, educated, and experienced coaches. So I will send my contact information in the chat as well, so you can have that for them, and or reach out to me directly with any questions you have about ODP. In general, I would say that this year, marked another long-term improvement on our long-term path, I should say. ODP in the state and in the region has improved dramatically from where we've been in the past. And we're excited for some of the improvements, to continue to have that impact on the program, not just at the state level, but, at the regional and national level. Now with the partnership with MLS, US Youth is revitalizing some of the upper end parts of ODP, and in the state, the changes that we've made in the past few years have really, been received very positively by the parents. So if any affiliates have any questions about the program, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to, to discuss what the program is doing and where we are. And again, would love to have any qualified coaches, that are interested, submit a resume for consideration. For the summer camp, as many of you know, MSYSA has been hosting a residential summer camp for the last 5 years. It's open to our affiliate members and their players. It's staffed with our ODP staff coaches, as well as having counselors that are from the ODP program. So it's very high level of staff there. And we've had fantastic growth in the last 5 years. The number of returning players, the number of players in general that are interested, we've been filling it. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're still in a holding pattern with our camp. It's going to be, a tight, decision, the same way State Cup is. The camp itself is scheduled to take place in July. And so we're looking at, making the final update and choice on whether or not it will proceed in its current manner by May 31st. Obviously, as a residential camp, there's a lot of additional concerns that we have, not just the same types of ones that we're discussing for soccer specific reasons, but anytime you have residential aspects to a camp, it's going to be a little bit different. If the camp does not go forward in its current model, we are also looking at potentially having a more centralized type day camp that we would offer to players. So if you have players that are interested in doing those kind of things, obviously, they're all stuck at home right now and can't wait to get back out on the field. We want you to know that even if the residential camp does not move forward, we are likely to have some type of an option for those players to get back out on the field in a meaningful way, hopefully in late July or early August if needed. And again, if you have questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me. I've just shared my information in the group chat, but if you have questions now, I'm happy to answer them about either program.
Any questions? I don't see any. So let's move on.
Gandalf, sorry, Mark. Gandalf, can you just explain a little bit more about some of the changes that we've done, especially sort of centered around the under 12 program and the shift from the sort of districts and then, possibly some of the friendlies and stuff, or the general outline of the program?
Absolutely. So I'll just go over the quick calendar from beginning to end, because I think that helps paint a better picture of where we are today, because it has changed dramatically, from 5 or 10 years ago even. So we start our cycle in the fall with tryouts in the evenings on Sundays that are centralized. And the goal there is to identify players that will be invited to callback tryouts. So we have an open tryout process in the fall that anyone can register for, and then that gets reduced to a callback tryout for each of the age groups. From those callback tryouts, we select pools of players. So in every age group, we're taking slightly more than a team's worth of players in the older age groups and several teams worth of players in the younger age groups, with the overall goal of identifying players that are not only good at the moment, but that could be, showing the potential to be good in the next few seasons or years. So those pools of players then go into trainings in the winter. They start their trainings in January. And in addition to those indoor trainings in January and February, we have added a series of friendly events where our teams are participating in in games against teams from New Jersey, from Delaware, from Pennsylvania, and Virginia. And the idea behind those friendlies is to provide the players not only the opportunity to get used to the style of play that the coaches are implementing, but we're giving the older age groups exposure at those events to college coaches. We're providing them with an additional opportunity to play in a new environment. And one of the core tenets for ODP, and one of the things that is such a positive experience for the players in ODP, is they're hearing from educated, licensed coaches that are different from their club coaches, but they're hearing the same types of things. They're getting the same, reinforcement on, the principles of play, on the style of play that's being implemented, and seeing things in a different way, in a different environment, challenges players' game IQ and helps them develop, a new way of thinking about things that they're able to take back to their club environment. As a club neutral program, we have coaches from a variety of clubs around the state. Overwhelmingly, I can say that the experience level of the coaches, the education level of the coaches is at an all-time high, at least in terms of, the club side. We're looking to bring back some additional college coaches into the program this year because, we want to add an additional level of experience there. But the training cycle for the spring is much as it was in the past in terms of the week-to-week, bringing them out on Monday nights so it doesn't conflict with clubs. And at those Monday night sessions, those coaches are working from a program curriculum that Alan and myself have put together that builds on week-to-week what they've known and builds on season-to-season. So the 12U players are coming back at 13U and building on what they received last year, and so on down the line. The changes that Alan referenced in terms of our under 12 program, in the past, it was regionalized, meaning we had several locations around the state where the 12s were playing. And it was also abbreviated. The program itself was shorter than the under 13s, and those things have changed. And I can tell you the reception from the parents in the program has been overwhelmingly positive. The 13s now do the same thing that the 12s did, so we're better preparing them for that shift to an older age group. All of the curriculum items that the 12s are hearing is geared towards helping prepare them, not just for the 9-a-side play, but also the 11-a-side play and the tactics, of both and how they relate. The program itself is in alignment now with all of the age groups so that we're better preparing them for that play in the future, including, starting with those friendlies, and ending with all of the age groups playing in a regional tournament that should have happened in June. Obviously it was canceled this year, but that regional tournament is against teams from Virginia all the way up to Maine, and provides them the opportunity to be seen by the regional coaches and college coaches to go on to play at that next level.
Thanks, Gandalf.
All right, thanks, Gandalf. Before we go to the next slide, I just wanted to make a few comments. I forgot to mention, by the way, that every webinar is recorded, and it's recorded for you. So in other words, if you can't make the webinar, if you want to listen to things that were said that you didn't write down any notes, or you wanted some more information, you can always go to our website and hear and go to that section of the webinar that you want to listen again to make sure you get everything. Like if you miss some of the information about registration or ODP or whatever. I also want to let you know that for those who don't know it, DC is now part of Maryland. So for the most part, most of the clubs in DC have joined. They used to be part of Virginia Youth Soccer, and they're now part of Maryland Youth Soccer. And some of the affiliates are actually on the call. So I wanted to welcome them and tell them that, we hope that you're getting a lot out of this. I also want to say that a new board member, Ferris Owens, is the commissioner of DC. And so any information that you have that you want to discuss, your conduit to our state association is Ferris. So Ferris, if you want, on the chat area, if you want to put your email down so that the DC affiliates could always contact you if they have any questions or they need answers from the state of Maryland. And appreciate you coming on the call and joining our board.
I most certainly will. And I appreciate you guys welcoming me onto the board, but I will send the information out to all DC people. Okay?
All right, thank you. Okay, next slide, please.
Just before we move on, Mark, basically we're going to move on to questions. I did have one sort of comment to make. Obviously, we announced the return to play. Just as an update, I think it's important to note that the return to play is essentially it's a guideline. It's not a policy or a mandate as such. Obviously, it's something that we encourage the clubs to utilize as a tool. But again, it's not something that we can enforce. Now, obviously, it's up to the clubs in their own areas to follow all the state and county guidelines. There have been some incidents where I guess parents or coaches have seen other clubs or other coaches that are maybe not following the guidelines. So what I would recommend is possibly to let them know that there are some guidelines out there, but again, it's not something that we can mandate, and it's really a guideline than a policy. So just kind of wanted to clarify that for you guys as clubs. Another thing on the coaching education side, I've been trying to put together some session plans in the sports session planner. I'm sort of listed them as COVID-19, so they'll be easy to find for those members that have the sports session planner tool. So when you are returning, you can find some examples. And then the last one, in terms of the WhatsApp group, I think I shared a link this morning to the county, but also to some exercises or video links that some of the coaches can use, especially in this sort of phase 2 where there's no passing. Obviously, it's a lot of repetitive exercise. So some coaches may not be aware of, certain skill names or moves or whatever it may be. So it's a good resource for them to be able to see a video and hopefully build out a session that they can use when they do return. So that's it from me for this week. Any questions in general related to anything? I
just want to bring up, Alan, that Alan is hosting a WhatsApp website that's incredible. It's up-to-date information, goes right to your phone. It dings when it comes through. It might be pertinent, it might not, it might be something that you look at later. But if you want to put that website or that invite, WhatsApp invite, so they can sign up. There's a lot of people that have already signed up across the state, but it's really good.
Yeah, you can either text me, or if you already have the WhatsApp group, just search me up in the WhatsApp and send me a message, and then I can just add you to the group. So it's pretty simple. It's straightforward app. It's really easy to use, and like I say, the great thing for me, why I love it, is because I get everybody's number and club affiliation, and it's in my contacts. So hopefully, as we move forward, it will help to keep everybody in touch and informed and up to date. So,
all right, thanks, Alan. So remember that next week's guest will be an insurance professional from Diversified Insurance. A lot of people have insurance questions about being back on the field, what kind of additional insurance they're going to need, any kind of liability issues about insurance, waivers, anything. It'll be a good idea to come on next week. You'll get a lot of good information. I don't see a lot of questions, so I'll leave it up for any other anything for good and welfare of our state of Maryland. Anybody else would like to have any input, any comments?
Hey, Mark, just want to remind everybody to make sure they check their local county government as far as what they can and cannot do out there, and that should be, health and safety is the number one thing for all our players. There was a quote by another state association working with their government. They said, just because you can does not mean you should. So just want to make sure everyone's very careful and, putting the players' health and safety as well as your own first and foremost. We're going to get back out there, but we have to make sure we do it in the right way.
And remember, we have that tool now that is
Right.
specific to your county. So
Right.
check on that, you know, daily, whatever. You're going to see information and resources to see what county's opening up, what county is not, what fields might be opening up, what fields may not. It's a good tool. So, and it took a lot of hard effort. I have to, you know, say that Brendan Mendelson, our marketing and communications person in the state office, spent a lot of time working on it. So great job, Brendan, because I know it was a lot of work. There's a lot of counties in the state of Maryland. So hopefully you'll utilize that tool. And I think, I'm not sure, I think Alan already popped it up on the WhatsApp site. Did you, Alan?
Well, sorry, what was that? I'm just dealing with some messages coming in.
No, you put up, didn't you put that county update web?
Yes, it's yeah, I sent it this morning. Again, the challenge with WhatsApp as well, just for those that I'm going to add, I've got a couple of numbers coming in today. When I add you to the WhatsApp group, unfortunately, you won't see previous messages because it's internet based. So you'll only receive the messages that we send from here on out. So just to be aware, when you join the group, it won't show anything until we start sending things from when you join the group.
We have a question. Can the boys DA teams or the girls academy play state cup?
So Mark, as far as the boys DA, which US Youth has an assigned agreement, right now, the only thing that is 100% definite in that agreement is player identification. It's still really up in the air whether those boys DA teams, especially the non-MLS teams that part of their program, will be playing state cup or not. It's kind of still out there to be determined. I don't think that anything's been determined as far as the girls academy. I know US Youth has been talking to the GAL League, but I don't think it's gone any further than that.
Okay. Now remember, for those that were not on the call last week, just to reiterate, the hot news last week was that the MLS and US Youth have joined together to form a new league, and most likely, some of the past DA players will be going there. A lot of them will be going to our ODP program, and it's still being worked on. I don't know if Dan Giffin's on the line, if he has any updated information, since he's our MLS on the go representative.
Yeah, guru. There we go. I like that. And yes, Brad, I still have not found a razor, so I'm going to let this grow out for you. Okay. Now we're inching closer to be able to share more stuff. I did speak to Mark and a couple of the other people last week. I did speak to Dave in our academy. He's going to get on here when there's a little bit more, substance for him to talk about. I mean, like we were saying even a couple of weeks ago, it's going to take a little bit longer. I did speak to a couple of the clubs that are on the line here about the girls' side, just to kind of give them the same kind of message. But I'm hoping that we'll have him on here sometime in early June.
That's all you got?
Yeah, that's all I got, because, the MLS is right now trying to figure out, are we going to play in Orlando? And, I'm still waiting to hear on that. So, everybody is. And I mean, like, even the coaching staff have had a little bit of feedback, but I think they're trying to get all their ducks in a row to do that as kind of a preseason, and then gradually come back to respective markets. But you can imagine all the logistics that they'll have and everything.
All right. Keep us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So here's a comment for Brad Roos. See what you think about this. Since teams are not going forward with regionals, can the boys DA and the girls academy teams play in our special state cup this year if that happens?
I think it's something they should contact me on, and we can talk about. I mean, I know that this has been a topic of conversation from other states that are looking to try to continue to hold state cups. So we'd have to talk about it. We would have to somehow try to get them registered with US Youth. But I think it's a conversational piece if we are able to move forward. I wouldn't never count anything out.
Okay, here's one. Here's a comment. Bill Cole, Eric McAleer, and Julio want to know how do they contact Steve Nichols to try to go to their tryouts this year. Anybody want to comment on that?
Man.
All right. Any other comments, discussions, anything? We're now into basically the webinar's over. We usually stay afterwards and people just kind of chat. For those that want to chat, we'll be on for a couple more minutes. It's kind of like this loose talk, chatting, getting to know things about your clubs or whatever. Anybody have any input about anything?
Hey, Mark, this is Trish, and I'm wondering what's wrong with Dan that he doesn't have 2 more questions to ask.
Well, he's probably woke up with a stomachache or something.
How can I say that? I do need to call you, Trish. I'm trying to get an answer still. Those guys are like a month behind.
Oh, I know. That's okay.
Stuff, so, yeah.
Just busting your chops.
No, that's okay. No, I'm just itching to see everybody and, hopefully restart. It may not be, for a while still, but, keep checking anything that I can do with sending out updates, stuff from like content for players or Q&As. I've been trying to reach out to the clubs with those emails. If you are looking for something or have any suggestions you would like to see DC United do, by all means, you can contact me. I think it's probably billboarded all over the state, but they have it on here. You can see my talking. Okay, that's it.
I hope these webinars are really informative and helping you guys get some kind of information, some connection, some direction of where we're all going as a state, how Maryland is dealing with it, how other states are dealing with it. And it's crazy because across the country, there are some states that the kids are back on the field. It's kind of like a test pilot for us because, we're watching them and seeing what they're doing and watching the protocols and seeing what works and what doesn't. That protocol, that back to play protocol, it was just a beginning guideline for recommendations. I guarantee it's going to change over the next couple months. Things are going to be added. Things are going to be taken out. Just like recently, the CDC finally said that now, because we were the same way, getting Amazon boxes, we were leaving them on our front porch for a day or two because we were told a month ago that the virus could stay on those boxes for a day or two. So, we stopped pulling our mail in on a daily basis. We would leave it in the box for a while. And now the latest and greatest is that it's really not per the CDC. It's really not an issue anymore. Where really the issue goes back to contact with other people. That's the issue. So, any other discussion?
It's going to be a far commute for me to find a state that has a Memorial Day tournament. It's like 35 years and this is the first Memorial Day I'm not sitting on a field somewhere.
I know.
Watching games.
It's sad.
Very.
Yeah.
And there's not much to do at home, is there? How many times do you clean your drawers and your closets?
I just keep coming in and adjusting my scarves. I just keep moving my scarves.
I told you the one in the middle needs to be down 2 inches.
2 inches? That's for all the OCD people. I just want to drive them crazy, so I'm leaving them at different heights.
I will say that what these webinars do for me personally, it's kind of connects me to some of the leadership across the state, which I really appreciate. And it connects me to old soccer friends that I either haven't seen in a long time, and it's encouraging. For example, Ellis Pierre, who I don't know if he's still on, but he asked the question to Steve Nichols about recruiting. Ellis was one of my daughter's first coaches when she played for the Bethesda Soccer Club. I hate to say how many years ago, and I've known him for years, and he's been around soccer forever. And he's he's probably one of my daughter's favorite coaches of all time. And it was great to hear him on the line and that he's participating in our webinars. And I look around, I see Julio, I see Eric McAleer, I see a lot of other people across the state. Val, who I've always followed Val over the years because his teams are always in State Cup and always in regionals and always on their way to the championship. You know, he's been a great coach. It's great to see him on. And I'm looking down, Steve Sienna, who's been one of our longtime ODP coaches, big supporter of the state programs, takes our teams to England every year for the ODP trips. He's a mainstay. Patrick Knoll, been around for a long time, is a great friend. He and his club are great friends to MSYSA. We worked together for years. I'm just going down the list and see a lot of people that I really appreciate being on the line. Corey Childs, by the way, his birthday was the other day. Happy birthday, Corey. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier, Bill Cole. There's a newer friend in soccer that I met on an international trip. We had probably the best 10 days with his kids. That team was incredible. We had so much fun, even though the weather wasn't so great in Scotland. It was great hanging with all the players and all the parents and the coaches. That was a great trip. And that's it. That's all I have for you today.
Mark, you sound like when I was little, I used to watch Romper Room and the teacher had the magic mirror. Romper Stomper, Romper Do. Who do I see today, right?
Never heard of it. I don't know anything about that program. Never heard of it.
Yeah, I bet you don't. Get out of here.
Hey, I do want to say something, Trish. So I'm sorry, I've got one down, one more to go after this. I just want to give a shout out to because we're all in Maryland and everybody loves the state like I do. We have the Potomac tournament, that was supposed to be going Memorial Day at the Maryland Soccerplex. So just keep that in mind that they are still open, trying to potentially pull this off. I mean, I can tell you right now, our only 2001 boys, we may be doing that, and just telling the Jefferson Cup to take their money and, well, I can tell them where they go with it. If anybody's heard anything on the Jefferson Cup, that's another topic. But we may wind up doing that because it's far enough out before the start of August that it would give some boys a chance to play that are older to get ready for college. If they picked up a little injury or something like that, it wouldn't be catastrophic going into their preseason. So keep that in mind. I don't believe they're accepting payments. They're just trying to see if they can pull this off. And, just remember they're a local club, Maryland first.
Thanks, Dan. We're still waiting for one more comment because you usually have three.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's number two. I don't know. I'm going to call Craig. I don't know if he's on the line from SAC, but obviously Elite Tournaments is doing something there as well, and our only tournament, Labor Day weekend, that is still on. So we may be doing something new and different for that this year. I'm trying to work around the COVID stuff for that that can make it a little bit better. An outstanding facility, also in Montgomery County, intent. So we'll see. But, don't forget about those. They're local here. You don't have to do the traveling up to New Jersey for EDP or anything like that. And they're here. So you don't have to worry about the hotels and all that junk. Just something to consider.
Okay. Any other?
Hey, Mark, Tudor with Washington Capital United. You and your team, thanks for doing these webinars. I mean, the consistency and trying to get people and different speakers, and keeps it interesting, and it keeps it good for us. And not only that, but the follow-up is great, and love being part of it. So thanks for doing it.
Well, thank you for that comment. That's what we try to do. We want to make this informative. We want to make this like a jovial type of, this is not like a college classroom where we're sitting here listening to a professor. We want everybody to participate, to enjoy it, to get something out of it, to stay connected, we're all in it to win it, essentially. We're in it together. right? You know, from the beginning, when Bill Cole mentioned this to me months ago, till right now, we are 100% dedicated to making this a webinar for you. That's why we spend the time every Friday. We're always trying to get informative, exciting speakers that really make a difference and helps you guys get some clarity to where we are in this soccer world. Like, again, not to reiterate, but next week should be really interesting because a lot of questions that we've gotten over the last couple of weeks have been about insurance. You know, what better source to hear it from the state insurance provider. So you'll know exactly what you need, what we have, and how we all work together with it. And so bring your questions because that's going to be very informative. We're still always looking for weekly guests. So if anybody has any recommendations, you can always email us, give us your recommendations, because it gets harder and harder to find guest speakers as time that there's only so many that we can get that actually can bring something to the table. So please give us some advice if anyone has anybody. Let's see, there's a couple comments.
Hey, Mark, there was one, I did see one comment about, tournaments and refunds. Just to let everyone know, we are currently updating our tournament sanctioning documents to make sure that our clubs that we sanction tournaments for, our affiliates, that they are properly covered as the host. And so look forward to that when you apply for tournaments. We are updating those documents to make sure that you as the host are covered as well.
Yeah, we have one comment that just a quick thought to check the individual tournament refund policy.
Right.
Some have only given back 50%.
Right. And we want to make sure in those tournament documents that when the tournament application comes in, that the refund and cancellation policy is right there up front. So any teams that apply to any particular tournament would know that right off the bat. Those are some of the things we're trying to address.
All right. Any other comments or discussion on a beautiful rainy Friday? I guess we'll end it then. We'll talk next week, 11:30, and hope everybody has a great Memorial Day weekend. So long, and see you next week at 11:30.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a
Mark.
great weekend.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
Talk to you later.
See you guys. All right, Val.